Joe, let's start with the conflict in the Middle East today. What do you make of President Joe Biden's response?
Well, it's been pretty weak right now. Look, Abby, you should have a look at Bernie Sanders' letter to the New York Times today. He said it's time for Biden and America to stop apologizing for Israel, to become more even-handed, to focus more on the economic inequalities there. He calls them systemic inequality and racist inequality practiced on the Palestinian people. And Bernie represents 35% of the Democratic Party. And so what they're saying is it's not business as usual. Israel cannot count on the support of the United States the way it has in the past. It's sort of also a rebuttal of the unreserved support that President Trump gave Benjamin Netanyahu. So, the Israelis are on notice that they can't count on that irregular support. Now, I think Biden will try to give that impression, but as I saw him on air the other day, he looked like he had trouble announcing what he wanted to do or enunciating his words. And look, I'll tell you a secret. I hang out with about 12 of the most distinguished former medical doctors and surgeons in Melbourne once a month. And these guys, they look at body language, whether it's Chairman Kim has got diabetes or whatever. They think that Joe Biden is exhibiting all kinds of neurological deficits and perhaps early onset dementia and the rest of it. And I don't know what's wrong. And look, to be fair to him, it's the most powerful job in the world, and it also wears people out. So I think that if Biden takes a back seat, that you're going to get all kinds of people rushing in to enunciate his policy, particularly Susan Rice, who's anti-Israeli along with other things.
So is that what you think is what's happening with Joe Biden at the moment? Do you think he's just getting worn out from the job?
Well, look, I'm in his age group. Some people are young 78s and some are older 78s. Yeah, I think he's kind of wearing out. I mean, they're trying to use him in a very judicious way, which is fair enough. But Biden's old school about the Middle East. He really thinks that you can broker a peace there. I think the peace is long gone. And and Bernie ended his letter to the New York Times by saying that Palestinian lives matter too. I mean, a lot of people in the Democratic Party are judging the Israelis by the Black Lives Matter standards and things like this. And so this is a brand new territory. And it also suggests that social media among the young people of Palestinians and in Israel are kind of taking over the scene here. And maybe Netanyahu has no handle on it. And so Americans don't know what to do. And I was very disturbed this morning monitoring American news. And most of the American commercial and non-commercial channels, the conflict right now in Israel is the third or fourth item, third or fourth lead in the newscast. So it suggests you that it's being downplayed. And of course, as you just look at your screens, it's hell on earth.
How would it be handled differently if Trump was still president?
Oh, Trump would say that Netanyahu can count on the support of the administration and whatever you need, and he just shut up. I mean, Trump had given up. He'd washed his hands of the Palestinians. I mean, he reckoned there was nothing in it for anybody, and he's actually stopped a lot of their funding. And I think it was under President Trump that Hamas was labeled a terrorist state. And 27 European nations feel the same way, including Australia. So you got a terrorist organization lobbing rockets on Israel. You have communal violence in the neighborhood. And you got all kinds of things happening. And you know how this is going to end. It's going to end terribly. And, since 1947, I mean, Israel was built on an active volcano. I mean, these things erupt all the time. At this time, it's getting very close coverage. And I don't know what the motives are, but there is no peace in the Middle East right now. And Biden's not clever enough. And Blinken, as Secretary of State, I think he was at an Arctic conference in Iceland, of all places to be while this is going on. So, and of course, finally here, I don't think the president wants to waste any of his political capital. He didn't want to prioritize this kind of a conflict. I mean, he's got all of his chips in the Iranian thing, which is off the table, by the way, if this gets any further. And climate change and infrastructure. He did not want to think about this problem, and yet there it is on his desk.
That's right. It's there. How much power does he have to make a difference when there are other regional players involved?
Well, the United States is the only power that has the ability to change the game because it provides Israel with $4 billion a year in aid, and a lot of that, and plus finances are loans to buy advanced jets and things like that, and fighter jets, et cetera. I mean, Israel couldn't make it without the American financial backing, but America has always had kind of a bipartisan approach to supporting Israel, and that has been deeply eroded. And the Democrats they're on notice that the traditional approach to Israel has changed, and that they can't count on the United States that way, and they expect President Biden to play a more neutral role, a real honest broker. It may be too late in the game, but to look out for the humanitarian and the rights of Palestinians, as well as balancing them with the security needs of Israel. But as you can see, it's lapsing into anarchy. And as I say, those riots in those neighborhoods remind me of reading about what happened when the British left India, and they all went at each other in that neck of the woods. And so it's anarchy, and you can't keep 2 million people in a cooped up area before you create about 500,000 warriors, who grow up hating their Israeli so-called occupiers. But Menachem Begin, a very famous Israeli leader, used to say, "The problem is the problem. It's no solution."
Joe, changing tack completely, Bill and Melinda Gates will have their first divorce hearing, I believe, this weekend or coming up. How do you see this playing out?
Well, look, it's a big deal. The New York Times is covering it, as well as the New York Post. He's the fourth richest guy in the world, so everyone's terribly interested. We don't have royals or anything like that, so Americans follow the machinations of these people. Look, he had a 27-year run with Melinda, and they had 3 children. And normally these things fall out over infidelity or finances. Well, there's no infidelity here. There are no financial problems. And it turns out that New York Post reports that Bill Gates has told his golf buddies that it was a loveless marriage, and that she has, New York Times reported that she told her friends that she was very worried about all of his creepy friends like Jeffrey Epstein hanging around, and that he might have been on jets to the Magic Island where they were going to. So she didn't approve of his friends. And she'd been planning on getting a divorce for a long time before she even told him about it. And so it's going to be a hell of a battle. But more importantly, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation supports 12 or 15 major projects around the world, which are ongoing, require money each year. And the Gates money is not all in that foundation. They have to continue to agree to give to that foundation. So there are thousands and thousands of people, both medical researchers and people on the ground in Africa, who are counting on these people to contribute with the foundation. And of course, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is run by who? Bill and Melinda Gates have to sit in the same room. And after a divorce, I don't think it's gonna work very well.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to work through. Joe Siracusa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.